We're now into practice number 3 for Boston College football, and hey, that offense is starting to look good.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are now on to practice number 3 for Boston College football. And on today's show, I'm going to give you a good old recap of what I saw during practice. I'll give you some names that have stood out. And Boston College football landed a commitment that I did not get into yesterday's show. I'll talk about who that is and why it's a big deal in segment number 3. Now, back to BC football on campus. I didn't get to go to practice on Sunday, but I was there Monday. And practice, thankfully, was back inside the Fish Field House because it was hot out again, and it's about 20 degrees cooler in the Fish Field House. But the big story of the day wasn't the weather; it was the play of the offense. Now, I think going into this season, a lot of folks had high expectations for this offense. You have Thomas Castellanos, one of the more explosive quarterbacks in the ACC, still leading the way. But how is all the new weapons going to look around him? So you saw more drills during practice, and that's always great. You saw some 7v7s and 11 versus 11. So what I'm talking about here is not the drills. Drills are drills. Coaches could tell you who did best there. I was watching when they were going against their competing defensive backs, or how the defense looked against the offense. And there were some things that I thought really stood out to me. First of all, Thomas Castellanos himself looks very, very poised as a quarterback right now. There were times where he would have time in the pocket and the pocket would start to shrink. And instead of just booking it and run, he did something which I think is a big step in terms of his development. He stepped up into the pocket more, and he kept doing it. And I was impressed with that because it gave him a chance to get the ball out. And he would hit some of his targets doing that. That seems like a huge, piece to watch for, is the calmness of Castellanos. If he can stay calm in the pocket and find guys like Jerron Bradley or Lewis Bond or Jaden Skeet or even Kamari Morales, that will help him be a more efficient quarterback. He didn't seem like he had happy feet at all. It was like he stepped up, and he just was calm and just got rid of the ball. And I think a lot of credit for that, when I talked to Castellanos after practice, you have to give credit to Bill O'Brien, Will Long, and Jonathan DiBiaso. DiBiaso, their quarterbacks coach, is getting a lot of praise. Bill O'Brien called him one of the best young coaches he's ever worked with. And I think you can see that with the quarterbacks, because not only does Castellanos look good, but I thought Grayson James has looked pretty solid too. I feel confident that BC has a good, solid backup going into next year. I don't think he's going to take Castellanos' spot, but watching him play against the twos, he looks fine. He's got a good arm. He's a lot bigger than Castellanos too. Now, folks want to know, who are the names to watch for? And the name that I continue to go back to, that I thought had a massive practice, was Treshaun Ward. The battle between him and Kai Robichaux for how they're going to be used is going to be something fascinating to watch, because right now they're doing 7v7 and 11 versus 11. I don't think it dictates who's the starter and who's the backup at this point, because I think what O'Brien's doing is just using guys to get them snaps, right? You want to be able to make sure that, if it's a lot of passing downs, you still want to get Kai Robichaux out there to try some of that stuff. And so they would, they just kind of cycled through the ones and twos throughout the day, but Ward was mostly with the ones. One of Castellanos' go-to moves now is the swing pass, and he does it a lot. I've seen him throw it a lot. And it's kind of his safety valve. Sometimes you see a quarterback who will have a tight end. Gronk was always a big one for Brady, or even when Hunter Long was here, Djokovic would always, dump down to him if he had to. I think this year your dump down safety valve is going to be Treshaun Ward. because he gets the ball to him a lot, and that's a great thing. Like Ward isn't like, he's not electric speed. He's got good speed. He's faster than Robichaux, but he's got good hands. I like the way he plays, and he's got decent size. So we saw a lot of Castellanos getting him the ball and getting him the ball and getting him the ball. And that seemed to work really well because, when the defense started to collapse, instead of having Castellanos taking those hits, you got it to your running back on the edge, and he didn't even need to take the hits either because he could just get bumped out of bounds. It keeps your guys fresh. So that's an addition. I think we didn't see a ton of that last year because I don't think Robichaux had that kind of moves, and Broom had it here and there, but he wasn't very. I felt like he never really got going with Castellanos, and Broom hasn't been at practice at all because of an injury that we don't know we don't know the extent of what that's going to look like. So I loved the play of Treshaun Ward. Another question people have been asking me: tight end position. Who is the starting tight end right now? Again, it's kind of similar to running back. They're not playing because they're doing 11 versus 11. They're doing a lot of sets with 3 wide receivers and a running back. They're not in a tight end. They're not doing a ton with multiple tight ends yet. I'm sure you'll see that more, and we could talk more about it when it's a scrimmage. So you see more of like Kamari Morales with the 1s and Jeremiah Franklin's with the 2s. But I imagine there's going to be times where they're going to use multiple tight end sets. So it could happen. But I got to say, the tight end position is a little thin this year. You have 2 starters. I think Morales will be your every down tight end, and Franklin will have his role too. But then it's Matt Reagan, who hasn't played yet, but he's had his moments. And there's not a lot after that. Holden Simmons, who's a redshirt freshman tight end who came from Governor's Academy last year, is gone. Sounds like he's in the transfer portal. Ryan Boltwood, he's been playing with the 3s, so I haven't seen much of him yet. So tight end position, a little bit thin there. There was, the fun thing with Bill O'Brien, I said this on yesterday's episode, but it's fun to talk about more, is his intensity. This guy is an intense coach. But I want to be fair that it's not like he's a bear out there just screaming and yelling at everyone, because you do see him doing the positive coaching too. Like he'll scream and yell about making mistakes or like, you got to fix this and fix that. But he'll also be like, hey, yeah, great play right there. I loved what you did, blah, 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 blah. So he's a presence to watch. Like I go back to, we didn't get a chance to watch Jeff Hafley at practices because he had closed practices, which is miserable as someone who covers the team. Now I get to watch it and get to watch how he works with college kids. And he's tough, and what you need to be in football. As he said, we're not in the library, so I'm going to coach him up the best way I know how to. He's tough, but I think he's fair, and the kids respond to him. They really do listen. I think there's a really strong relationship already between Bill O'Brien, his staff, and the players. Watching the positional coaches is the same way. Like they're, I watched Cedric Lott, for instance, as a true freshman wide receiver. He was doing a drill, and he missed a pass. I think he might have dropped it. And he knew right away, 10 push-ups. He gets over there, does it right away. And the coaches come over, talk to him like, you got to fix this. You got to do better here and there. That's been interesting to watch. In terms of the backups, right? I think a lot of folks want to watch the backups. The name I want to tell you guys to watch for is Reed Harris. Reed Harris is going to be something. He's 6'5", 6'4". But he's not like built like a tight end. So I know folks have been asking about him as a tight end. He's slender. He's like Jerron Bradley's kind of slender too. Like they're not like big dudes that can block. He's a wide receiver, but he's made some nice plays the last couple of days. And I've heard buzz from talking to different people that this is a guy that could be playing a role in this offense. And he's from Montana, right? How random is that? Now, in the second segment, I want to give you some notable names. Some names on the offense and defense that I've noticed have been making plays, and I'll explain why you should be knowing more about them in just a moment. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. With superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride. every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On Boston College your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On College Football podcast with Spencer McLaughlin. Spencer gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with a discussion of the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football, expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, folks, as we get into our second segment, I want to tell you guys about our Eagles Nest program that we have going on here at Locked On BC. It is part of what's called Subtext. I send you text messages, videos, all sorts of goodies to your phone. Right now, it is free through the football season. If you want to get to be part of this, all you have to do is click the link in the show notes and use the promo code. There's still a couple left, and I'd love to see you guys come on. I've been giving a new video with me on it, telling you about at practice, like right outside the practice facility every single day. Check it out. It's free for 6 months. There's no obligation. So even at the end of 6 months, you say, nah, I don't want to do this. You don't have to put a credit card or anything in like that. Just try it out. Give it a test run. It's called the Eagles Nest. It's part of the our insiders program here at Locked On. Check out the notes for more. Okay, so let's give you some names of people that I've noticed at camp so far. So on the offensive line, I think everyone has been playing pretty solid. I haven't seen like pre-snap penalties and things like that while they're practicing. It's been hard to see like, oh, this guy is stepping up. On the defensive side of the ball, one name I would like to tell you guys about is Davion Crouch. Davion Crouch, or Bam Crouch, is one of the starting linebackers right now in he's playing with the ones. He is out there with Cam Arnold, and he is a big physical linebacker. He can lay a hit better than any linebacker I've seen in the last 4 years, and is lining up to be one of the starters going into this season, it looks like to me. He makes plays. I've seen him stuff runs. I've seen him get at the quarterback. I've seen him in coverage. Bam Crouch, I think, is probably the linebacker I'm most excited to watch, and has the best chance of playing, because the other linebacker that I've watched a little bit is Sayoni Hala, who you probably all saw a little bit last year at the end of the year. He's listed as a defensive back on the roster, but he's practicing and doing drills with the linebackers. So he could be like a strong safety type that kind of does both, but I'm imagining he's more of a linebacker. I've seen him. He had an interception on Monday. And he's been making plays. He's a faster linebacker, but he's also big. He's got some good size to him too. So those are two linebackers that I've been enjoying watching. Another name I think folks want to know more about is Cameron Martinez, the cornerback from Ohio State, or defensive back. I kind of just blew my surprise here. We didn't know if he was going to be a safety or corner. The answer is, from what I've seen so far, is he's going to be a slot corner. It's been right now, the slot has been worked between Cameron Martinez and Kari Johnson. Kari Johnson's had most of the ones, been mostly with the ones, but I've seen Cameron Martinez rotating in there too. He's made some good plays. He had a big, and this is going to jump ahead. I'm recording on Tuesday. I'll tell you a little bit. He made a big physical hit on Tuesday. And I think he's going to be something. I think folks want to know more about him. Now that we've got to see him play a little bit more, he's been, very active in the defensive side of the ball. So he's a slot corner. He's not a safety. The starting safeties have been KP Price and Jalen Sheik. But they rotate the way Tim Lewis has been doing it. He moves guys around a lot, and even watching it on the field, it's hard to sometimes tell who's the corner, who's the safety, because they shift in and out. He moves some guys in, and he goes for multiple looks, is what Bill O'Brien is saying. On the offensive side of the ball, one name that I mentioned earlier was Reed Harris, but we already talked about him. The other name I think that you guys need to know about, and I want to make sure I'm clear that he's doing well, is Kai Robichaux. Like, I just talked a lot about Treshaun Ward and how important he is. Robichaux still is doing what he did last year at a very high level. He's had some big physical runs, like even in practice, like he just lays down that shoulder sometimes, and it's like boom. And when he's working with the twos, he He makes sure he makes sure that he's running them over. But even when he plays with the ones, I've seen some really good runs out of him so far. So I don't expect him to like lose the starting job. I just think he's going to have a more specific role and have specific plays that are more tailored to what he can do, which is make some big plays. And then a name I really haven't talked much about. And it's more just a name you should be more aware of. So the starting edges right now are Neto Ekpala and Donovan Azaraku. Both the same guys, I think the last 2 years at least, that have been the starting edges. They're doing fine. Neither are in jeopardy of ever losing their job. They both look like they're doing a good job. It's the backups that have kind of caught my attention. So Edward Kalengi is, I think he's number 17, is still one of the starting edges. And he's played a bit, so we've seen him. The other edge, I was expecting it to be Gilbert Tongrangu. We've seen him play when Jeff Hafley was here, but it's not. The backup starting edge right now is Josiah Griffin. And getting to see him up close and personal, which is what I love about going to practice, is like you get to see the kids actually practicing. He looks more the size, like he's bigger than Neto and Donovan, but he's built like a defensive end, like big, physical, like muscular guy. Gilbert is more of, he's not like George Rooks, because George Rooks is bigger, but he's a wider edge. So it looks to me like right now Josiah is playing more with the twos, and that can change, but he's a name that I'm interested to see more out of, especially when we get to scrimmage season. I want to see what he does when he's actually in gameplay, because he could be the next like blossoming edge rusher for BC. We just need to see it. Like in practice, you don't see a ton of it. And honestly, I have to say too, watching it practice, sometimes there's plays in the backfield when it's a giant mess of bodies. It's hard to see who's who. If they just blow a play dead, you can't see like who got their hands on Castellanos or who got their hands on Kai Robichaux, because they usually do blow it dead pretty quick. They do tackle too, though. It's not like they're not tackling out there. So those are the names that right now through Monday's practice that have caught my attention. And if you have questions, come on over to Insiders. You can ask me about anybody. Like if you join the Eagles Nest and you have direct access, you can text me any question you want. Like, hey AJ, how is Bryce Steele looking so far? I'll answer it. I'll answer any questions you guys have. So join up on that. Now, in our final segment, we're going to get out of camp for a little bit. And I want to get into a football commitment that happened over the weekend that we need to talk about, and why BC is continuing to kill it in the state of Massachusetts. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But if the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. I'm thinking about those Red Sox right now. Rafael Devers, he's been on a hot streak. You can get anytime Rafael Devers home run wagers every game and see how you do on FanDuel. And you can join up by hooking up. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, folks. If you are looking for a second listen, many of you, your first listen every day is Locked On BC. I appreciate each and every one of you, because you're the lifeblood of this podcast. And if you're new, become an everydayer. Listen to this show every single day. We're the only Boston College podcast to do this 5 days a week. If you're done with this episode and you have missed some, go check those out. But if you haven't, if you're already up to date on everything BC, go check out Locked On ACC, hosted by Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono. Gives you everything you need to know about the ACC conference. Check that out wherever you get YouTube or podcasts. Finally, let's get into some recruiting news. I know you guys love to talk recruiting, and Boston College is on a tear right now in the class of 2026. They landed their 5th commitment in the class of 26. They're 4th from the state of Massachusetts with Brady Bekkenhuis, an offensive tackle, 6'6", out of Arlington, Mass. He chose Boston College after taking visits to Rutgers and Maryland this last week, and Boston College, where he was at the barbecue. He is the 3rd Massachusetts offensive lineman to commit to Bill O'Brien from the class of 2026, and the 3rd to do so in the last 4 months. He had offers again from Syracuse, Maryland, and Rutgers. And all this talk that we've had about Matt Applebaum and the struggles with the offensive line in terms of recruiting, they seem to be dissipating. And I don't know if it's the Bill O'Brien effect or what's going on here, but now BC has 3 offensive linemen for next year. They have only 2 for this year. And I've said on previous episodes, Bekkenhuis was one I was expecting. There's still more out there. There's guys that they've had good relationships. They could be looking at 4 or 5 offensive linemen easy, maybe even more for next year. But I love that Bill O'Brien is building up his recruiting class already. And he's doing it, and first of all, in the offensive and defensive line. All but the quarterback are linemen. 3 offensive, 1 defensive. And 4 out of the 5 are from the state of Massachusetts. He's planting the Boston College flag in the state of Mass. He is doing what he said he would do, but had struggled in the class of 25. Now that he has the time to really relate to these kids, get to know them, get to know their coaches and families, he's been able to have a much bigger impact than he did in the class of 25. And I think this class is already showing, like, BC is not going to let the players they want out of state if they can do it. You know, there's other guys like Laniel U-Haul Hall from Dexter South who has a big offer list. He'll be the next one to watch for. But right now, it's Jonathan DiBiaso and Matt Applebaum really in the state of Massachusetts that have actually absolutely crushed it. BC has the 35th ranked recruiting class, and these are kids I don't expect to leave. While on the other hand, Syracuse, who I believe my parent site wrote a whole article about how they had a great class 26, is down to 1 commitment because all the kids that they were all crowing about are all decommitting, because of course they are. When you go after 4 stars that have no relationship to your school, when a school like Florida State, or Miami goes after them, they're going to leave in a heartbeat. All these kids that BC are going for have good offer sheets. Mac Fitzgerald would have had, he's the highest rank that they have. He doesn't have a huge offer list, but he would have. Believe me, he would have. So this is a good start for BC football. Their recruiting class is looking good, and it's just going to keep getting better. Now, on tomorrow's show, I have Tuesday's practice notes to go over with you guys all, as there's more news to go over and a new name on offense that I wanted to talk about. We'll have a whole bunch more. So make sure you lock on to BC, wherever you get your podcast or YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Get on that Eagles nest right now. Sign up is in the show notes. Make sure you become an insider here. We'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.